So first you see here, let's say, I mean, do this module a little bit different because you see here, the learning objectives. I try to show you that, let's say how different pricing strategy actually work in real world. And then let's say you will learn how to perform a basic, pricing analysis using Excel or Tableau. So this is actually a new tutorial I designed recently. So please, try to work on your own because it really helps you take your learning to the next level. And I really suggest that you use Tableau instead of Excel because it's user friendly and all of you can learn how to do it. And then, let's say you can post the result dashboard in your resume, which is very nice. So that being said again, so I think I also have some additional tutorials for our users, but it's not required for this class. And you probably remember I hosted, a meetup event. And if you want to learn, probably some of the basic pricing strategies when you do financial investments, so I strongly suggest you watch, the video which I posting on my YouTube channel. So scraping, Yahoo Finance data, then how to perform, let's say, time series analysis, okay, with R Studio. I think, let's say, probably wondering, why is this useful? Why is this important? So now you see here, financial institution, for example, Lehman Markets actually use our quant mode to make, automated trading decisions. And definitely, as a personal investor, so maybe you want to, learn some of these tools on your own. So you see, funders are additional resources. So now let's look at, the exercise we'll be working on, which is, avocado pricing. And this is the final result you will have. You perform regression analysis, and then you will actually publish the analysis and a report on your own personal website. Tableau profile, a page. So here I have my Tableau page. So you see here, the second analysis I did was the avocado pricing of sales. And you'll be doing the same for this analysis, and you can publish your report online as well, okay? So now think about, some issues before we start, this module. So how much would you pay for Pepsi at a grocery store? How about a movie theater? How about, airport? And then also, let's say, think about when you buy air ticket, how much does it cost for you to buy, a last minute air ticket, okay? And finally, think about, how Uber allocate resources using their algorithms. How Uber matches passengers with Uber drivers, and how much would you pay actually for Uber ride at 3 a.m. in the morning? Okay, so now, imagine, so pricing basically is about, let's say, matching marketers' expectations with consumers' expectations. Okay, and pricing actually, are made because of a few, strategic, decisions. First, brand positioning. So brand position means, let's say you want to define your prices according to your positioning strategy, right? For example, Walmart has its, positioning strategy that they sell prices at affordable price, they sell products at affordable prices, right? At affordable prices. So they have a mission statement, everyday low price, or tagline. You go to a store, you see the tagline, everyday low prices, right? But imagine Whole Foods, or let's say sports, I'm sure they use a different strategy, right? So when you sell organic products, you don't want to say everyday low prices, right? Yeah. Okay, next one. Pricing actually affects demand. So when price drops, demand actually increase. And then pricing can be used as a segmentation tool. Okay, we'll see some examples. First one, and this is a law of demand and supply. You probably already learned this in the econ class. So you see here, when price drops, you see here, let's say demand tend to increase. Also, let's say price increases, demand tend to decrease. Okay. I think here the basic point here is that, let's say maybe now think about, when marketers charge different prices for different market segments, how much will revenue actually change? Now think about you use one pricing point. So here, for example, the first pricing points, Q1, P1 times Q1 equals to 100. And then, let's say you charge different prices for two different segments. So now the answer is going to be, let's say, 10 times 10 plus 15 times 5 minus, the area that is close to original point, 5 times 10, and it gives you a value of 125. So you see, if you use dynamic pricing, since you charge different prices for different segments, market segments, your revenue has increased, right? Your revenue has increased. So now think about pricing as a systematic strategy that matches customers with companies. So there are customers, competitors, and companies, which means it's a three-party game. So that being said, how much prices you charge as a company, how much your competitors charge, and then finally how much your customers are willing to pay. And now imagine if you purchase Wi-Fi services, internet services. Now imagine some this industry is probably usually dominated by a few competitors. So that being said again, so probably as a company, you are more likely to charge higher price because there's less competition. So there is a way to measure this kind of competition, and then also how companies are more likely to charge according to this this index. Okay, this index, it measures competition and also the likelihood of charging higher price. So now you see here profit and price, they usually change according to let's say according to the same direction. Price increase and profit will also increase. Basic formula, basic theory. So I think now we talk about product elasticity. Now think about let's say some products probably demand will barely change, and even if you change price, but for some products demand actually changes a lot if you change the price. Okay, so but I think it's better to use a graph to see what's going on. The first example you see here on the left, it shows that price drops from $7 to $4. And then see here sales actually increased from 10 to 40. And the second scenario, price dropped from, let's say, price dropped from 7 to 4, and then demand actually increased from, let's say, 35 to 40. Okay, so you see different scenarios, and we make a conclusion that the demand change is smaller in the second graph. So we suggest that the demand is inelastic, or the product itself is inelastic, because the change of demand is relatively smaller. So now here's the question. Here, this is a very basic calculation, right? And you can calculate elasticity using this equation. Okay. So here now think about let's say brand loyalty. So maybe we can arrive such a conclusion that for some products, if if consumers have a high level of brand loyalty, then the product itself is going to be inelastic, right? Because demand will barely change. But for some products, maybe, demand will change significantly when, when price change. So with these kind of products, you have to make sure you have, coupons, promotions constantly in order to, let's say, in order to get more customers. Okay, so next one. So see here, let's say we can also run experiments and test, price sensitivity. How sensitive, do consumers react to advertising, coupons, or other factors? So now you can do regression analysis. You can do regression analysis. That's why I think for the avocado pricing example, you can do regression analysis using either Tableau or Excel, which means, you can get your own conclusions by working on real-world data set. Okay, now think about, let's say other ways of, doing the analysis. For example, you can conduct a survey. I think, assess, how consumers are willing to pay or how much they are willing to pay. For example, let's say you tell them, this product is worth $25. How much would you like to pay, right? How likely are you going to pay for this service or product? We use the Likert scale, you see 1 to 7, to measure people's willingness to pay. Next one. So see, you can also conduct, pricing studies. So let's say you have an experiment and then you try to make sure these products are probably identical. And then, let's say you try to let them fill out the survey and then do some analysis and then see which kind of scenario may lead to more product sales. Now think about, let's say market share and revenue. So some products are more likely to, be responsive to price changes. So for example, internet services. So here there are probably differences between Sprint and T-Mobile and probably, AT&T. Let's look at first graph and a second graph. You see here market share, in terms of market share, T-Mobile has, 28% market share. Unfortunately, for revenue share, you see here, let's say profit is only about, 15%. So now think about doing the math. So what's going on here in these two graphs, right? I'm gonna pause for maybe 5 seconds. Now think about this question. What kind of conclusions you can get by looking at these two graphs, right? And now let's come back to this graph. So you see here, the first graph, again, market share for, we measure units sold, right? How many products you have sold the last calendar year. And basic T-Mobile has large market share. So that means say close to 30%. And if you look at profit, it looks like, T-Mobile, in terms of revenue share, it's only around 15%. So it looks like maybe, T-Mobile is using low pricing strategy, okay, to capture a large market, right? So this is probably a primary difference. And then you can definitely look at annual report and then see, if customer retention is higher for, for a company that uses a low pricing strategy, okay, or market share strategy. So the goal T-Mobile is to increase market share. Maybe when it comes to, this strategy, they'll be more likely to, have higher customer retention, because you assume, the price are lower and you try to sell more products, especially when these products are uniform products or services, then probably are more likely to get more customers. And then definitely your profit will drop, but maybe in the long run, that could be a good thing for T-Mobile, okay? So again, you can look at, annual reports and see what's going on. So next one. So now we think about, systematic biases in pricing. So for example, these are probably psychological pricing strategies. So for example, for $200 products, you can probably charge, 199, probably 190. So it shows that, you are actually, let's say, you're actually, given some discounts, and this kind of discount may seem to be a good deal. And especially, when consumers are looking for deals, or probably, coupons, are probably, let's say, promotions. Okay. Finally, I try to show you two exercise questions, and I think the first question itself is from, let's say, the Google AdWords, website. So here you can find the original tutorial. So basically, let's say, imagine if you if your product costs $100, and then, let's say, you are going to sell it for, let's say, $200. And then, let's say you are going to launch, some Google AdWords campaigns, and then try to get more customers. Okay. So basically, the question here is that, let's say, if your total sales are going to be, let's say, 100 times 6, which is 600 plus, sorry, total sales will be 200 plus, let's say, 200 times 6, which is going to be, let's say, 1200. That's your total sales. So now if you launch this Google AdWords campaign, what is your return on investment? Okay. What is your return on investment? So I'm going to show you the calculation momentarily. Okay, I'm going to pause for probably 5 seconds. You can do the calculation on your own. And now imagine, so we can list each item, sequentially. So let's say cost equals to, let's say, 200. AdWords cost. And then, let's say here also, we are going to is total sales, which equals to total sales equals to 200 times 6, which is 1200, right? 1200. So now we also need to, let's say, we also need to calculate, we also need to calculate cost goods sold. Okay, cost goods sold. So cost goods sold for the product is going to be, let's say, cost goods sold. Cost goods sold is going to be, let's say, $100 times 6 plus Google Ads cost, okay, which is $200. Now, if you do the math, ROI equals to 1,000 minus, let's say, 800 divided by 800. Okay, so now the answer is going to be sorry, 1200 minus 800. Okay, 50%. You see here, return investment will be 50%. So now if you want to get the formula, it's going to be, let's say, sales, right? Maybe total sales minus, let's say, cost goods sold, right? Cost goods sold. Divide by cost goods sold. Okay, so here's the formula. So finally, one more example. So let's imagine, so if you sell, if you companies, you know, that when they generate leads, they also think about, you know, let's say cost goods sold, right? Cost goods sold, that means advertising cost. And then, you know, let's say you calculate revenue. And then, you know, probably, you know, when you think about revenue, you also think about, you know, how much money it costs for each lead. So here, for example, you know, for each sale, you know, for every one sale you get, you need, you know, 10 leads. Lead means, you know, a customer who comes to your website, a customer who calls you. And then eventually only probably out to 10 customers who potentially, you know, who potentially come to your website. And then only out of these 10 customers, only one of them will make the final purchase. So now imagine if they spend them, you know, $20, and then you can do a calculation. And then, you know, you get a lead, you get, you know, you get to understand, you know, how much does each lead actually generate revenue. So for this one, it's going to be simple. It's 20 divided by 10. Okay, 20 divided by 10. So you get $20 for each 10 leads. And then you get to understand how much lead actually, how much does each lead actually generate revenue on average, revenue on average. So it's 2, okay? So the value of each lead is $2. The value of each lead, the value of each